You're running PBK community, you've built value there. If you was to open up to more doors, rather than buying property, putting 150k in there, what do you think it would look like if you put 150k into content and ads?
The reality is, property isn't a get-rich-quick business. It's a get-rich-slow, and it's a great way of parking your money. I've had some businesses that I've invested from an angel investor that have been really profitable. They've made me far more from an ROI perspective that I've made in property. At the same time, there's businesses that I've invested in that I've lost close to 6 figures.
My thing is this, I know 100% full well that property is a safe investment, it's a great investment, but my thing is also in today's generation, for people who are just trying to become an entrepreneur, yes, property is there, try and start an online business.
The best choice is to probably do.
PBK podcast is sponsored by Faraway Pizza, the fastest growing pizza company in the UK. With over 160 stores, you can definitely find one near you. If you want a slice of their flavoursome pizza, then you can use our discount code PBK20 at faraway.co.uk to get 20% off. Once again, PBK20 at faraway.co.uk to get 20% off.
And we are back for another episode of the PBK podcast. Today, I'm not going to lie, I'm under pressure. I've got the real podcaster, Mr. CEOCAST.
I'm gonna test you on this one, bro.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm being interviewed now again. Just as soon as I see you. For those that don't know, we have Mr. CEOCAST, aka Raheem, aka one of the biggest podcasts for me personally in the business. People of influence space in the UK. Had some massive names recently: Dean Forbes, Reese Rabara, owner of Manet Devoir, the Tate brothers, to name a few. Lord Aleem of some of the massive interviews you've done.
Yeah. It's been a big journey, bro. Big journey. I think we met back in 2000. I want to say 20 or 21 when we first filmed My House. And now you're doing your podcast, is just sick. Seeing you online, building your brand, which is sick. I want to say in the beginning, when we first started, you were just on the beginning journey of building your personal brand. So seeing the whole journey for you has been incredible as well, bro. So hats off to you.
Appreciate you, brother. And as I've said recently, of course, it's still the PBK. The P is still for property, but we're focusing on the B as well, which is also, you know what I mean, getting some of the business. Nah, not the buy. Today, the B is not for buy. It's not for buying property, but it's also the business element, because for those of us that want to invest in property, it is not a secret that property, particularly in London, where a lot of us are focused, costs a lot of money. So a lot of the time, it's your business that you then reinvest into property. So we're getting different people, different entrepreneurs to talk about their journeys like within business and how that also transitions. Don't worry, we are still going to be talking property, but we're gonna mix things up a little bit. Just have to say, by the way, precursor, for those that want to hear the who is Raheem, what was he like as a child, what was he like in school? This is not the podcast for you. I know there are a lot of questions that people do want to ask.
They're boring questions as well, man.
It's not just that, but you've been around enough. You've done enough. We've answered those questions. We've got a personal relationship. So I want to find more about you now, like what you're up to now, what still makes you tick. But in terms of the actual podcast space, I think I want to look at it from a business perspective. As someone who was an early adopter in podcasts, with there now being everyone's mum, dad, sister, dog, goldfish has a podcast.
Yeah, everyone on the camera and a mic.
Do you see the growth of podcasts as a good or bad thing for your business personally?
For my my business personally, no, I wouldn't say it's a good thing. Reason being is because back then when I started 2020, you had me. I'm not so bad, but this isn't even an ego thing or anything like that. It was mainly when you come. Let me cut that bit out. When you want to come for business, it was my podcast. Now there's so many, such a big selection, wide range of podcasts that you don't even know which one to tune into. And a lot of people lock in for their specific podcast. So now that, I wouldn't even call it competition, but the range of podcasts is so vast that trying to bring in all the audience just to your podcast is harder than it was before, I'd say.
I guess the other side to that though would be the more people that are talking about it, it's like the idea of music artists. Do you want to drop it the same week as Drake, so everybody's going on iTunes or going on Spotify, and they might see yours at the same time?
Like, I'll give you an example, bro.
Or do you want to avoid him completely because you don't want to lose out?
That's the thing, bro. So when I first started, my schedule was Sunday 7 p.m. every single week, and for whatever reason, everyone else decided to do Sunday 8 p.m., 6 p.m., 5 p.m., whatever it is. There's something always dropping on Sunday.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to stand out with every single person who's dropping on the same day. So now in my head, I'm thinking, right, do I drop on different days? But then the audience aren't going to be used to that because they're used to Sunday, 7 p.m. So what do you do? But so far, I've stuck with just Sunday, to be fair, and seeing how it goes.
Because also, I guess the thing with podcasts are, it's not like, all right, somebody says, again, we're just going to sound like a massive Drake fan, but in my head, it's the only artist that's in my head. Someone says, oh, Drake's got a new song out. It's like, okay, 3 to 4 minutes and I've heard the song.
Yeah.
If someone says Raheem's got a new podcast, it's like, well, it's anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah.
And if 4 podcasts drop on that day, you don't have 10 hours. And before you know it, there's new podcasts coming out every day.
Yeah. No, so I mean, just the way I listen to podcasts as well, you know, you kind of break it up. Like, it will release on Sunday, 7 p.m. You have the odd people who watch it, you know, the full thing on that Sunday, or you might have someone who watches it throughout the week. Me personally, when I indulge podcasts or watch maybe 20 minutes a day, might take me 3-4 days to finish a whole podcast, pretty much.
Yeah, same. Like, I listen to them sometimes. I listen to them while driving,
all that sort of
in
stuff,
and out, like phone
exactly
calls
that.
come in and before you know what it is. Actually, interesting question. What, outside of your own podcast and my podcast, of course, what's one of your kind of favorite podcasts to consume?
To what, like, that's an interesting question, actually. There's quite a few. I like... Alex Hormozy's got one called The Game. There's another one in America called Iced Coffee Hour, Graham Stephan. I'm trying to think what else I listen to. Those are probably the 2 ones that I mainly listen to all the time. Yeah. And indulging, I'd say.
I don't even know if Suncast... Do you know Hot Ones? Does that come under a podcast? Or is that more of like a show?
I'd say that's more of a show.
Yeah.
Like, you get to know more about the person, all that sort of stuff, but I reckon that's more of a show and entertainment than anything else. Because you can't... The thing is with that, you can't listen to that on Spotify without watching it on YouTube
and get a skip.
Like, you need to see the reactions. You need to see what they're eating, all that sort of stuff, the wings, blah 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 blah. I don't even think it's on Spotify, is it? Or I don't even know. But
I've only ever watched it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You've only ever watched it, so that's more of a show. Whereas podcast is a show and something you can listen to on your journeys, I think.
How much do you enjoy doing podcasts though?
The actual process of the podcast, I still enjoy it, not as much as before, because what I like enjoying now is just meeting people, networking. I suppose it kind of goes hand in hand with the podcast essentially, but I like the life that it brings with the podcast.
Nice. Have you had any guests on where you're just like, you're doing the pod and you're just thinking, when's this going to end?
No comment. No, what I will say, without bashing any...
Bashes something.
Yeah, without bashing any guests or anything like that, there are some podcasts where you think... Well, firstly, there have been podcasts where I haven't released, just because I think, I don't know how much of the truth you're telling. And secondly, there are podcasts where you think, right, how much of the story is going to end? For example, let's just say me and you doing a podcast, and you start telling me about everything X, Y, Z, but then you're waffling on too much about the one subject. But then I also need to be the guy who's the host to say, you know what, chill out, champ. Let's move on to the next topic and all that sort of stuff. I suppose that's kind of what makes a great podcast host. It's someone who knows when to switch the topic. If I'm getting disengaged from the conversation, 99% of the time, the audience is probably going to do the same thing as well. Get disengaged and probably turn off, which you don't want to do.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think when we first recorded with you, it was like your original studio when I filmed with you twice now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Twice. So first time, it was in your studio. And you've always been quite hands-on.
Yeah.
Like
still hands-on, yeah.
You're still very hands-on. Every time I come down there's something's in construction, whether or not... What was the most recent thing? I think it was like your driving rig.
Oh yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. So the first time we done one was in my house, in my studio. It was in the shed, pretty much, man cave thing, whatever you want to call it. Built the whole thing. Second one we done was in my actual dedicated studio. Yeah, that place we got the whole racing simulator set up, TV, sofa, the whole chill out space. But yeah, always been hands on, bro. Built the whole thing from scratch, both of the studios. Which I suppose comes into the great for this podcast because I'm a man who knows everything about DIY. Not everything.
No, you know, to be honest with you, you definitely know more than me. You're definitely more hands-on. And it's a great segue because is that why you think you find property interesting? Because you actually like doing the work? Yeah,
I find property interesting. I love architecture. I love design. I love, like, for example, I love watching your videos of going around doing house tours and stuff like that. For example, one of my favorite videos I actually filmed was when we went down in Croydon and quite a few other places where, you know, we checked out a few of the projects you got. I always liked the whole architecture, the build, the planning, making it come together and all that sort of stuff, see what you can get out of it. I suppose that's kind of been something that's I've grown up with, you know. My dad is into property, so he made me get hands-on from the age of 11, 12, 13. I can't remember exactly. So I've always been hands-on. I find it
When
interesting.
you say hands-on, that sounds like a bit of child labour over there for you at 12, 13. What was your dad having you doing?
I just do a laminate flooring, bro.
Oh, serious?
I think that was the first job I done was laminate flooring.
Okay.
Then it might have been doing the kitchen. Then it might have been doing tiling. Then it might have been doing flipping windows.
Okay, no, so you're more than a DIY
I'll build
man.
your whole yard right now.
Okay, we're gonna we might have to make that an actual episode
series.
where I'll bring you down to site and I'll be like, right, Raheem has confirmed that he can do laminate flooring. We're gonna gauge it out of 10. We're gonna confirm that he can do a bit of tiling.
I could do your whole laminate flooring in a 3-bedroom house all in one day. Done.
Okay.
Just myself.
Nah, I feel like this is a YouTube video waiting to happen.
Yeah, this is gonna be Kazy free labor.
Okay, so from early on, you were always on site, always kind of just liked, I guess, the process of creation.
Yeah.
You're still in the creative space now,
Exactly
but just
that, yeah.
pivoted into a different space. But how important for you do you think it was to see your dad owning property at an earlier age?
Definitely important because he always stressed me from day one, you know. So bit of backstory, he got let go from his job maybe when I was born, I think 27 years ago roughly.
Yeah.
And you know, he bought his first property around that same sort of time. And he's always told me from day one, you know, do you want to work for yourself? You want to do this, you want to do that. And him being involved in property allowed me to see that, allowed me to see, I suppose, rental incomes, how maintenance is, all that sort of stuff. So it's always been there. What was the original question you asked there off the back?
No, just like the importance for you of actually seeing that at a young age, understanding the importance of owning property.
Yeah, no, definitely important. And I think the main important thing as well is being hands-on and learning everything. And my dad's always stressed, you know, learn these things so you don't get bumped later on down the line.
Yeah.
Which is, I suppose.
And I think that is for a lot of us, like, you know, that want to be property professionals. A lot of the time we see the Instagram developers that all I do is I turn up and I say, right, has everyone done their work? And I go home and I sit on a beach in Jamaica. But the reality is the more you understand yourself about the work, about the process, the more you know when to ask questions or when things are being done wrong.
You know what value is there. You know, it's the same thing if we're looking at the podcast. I've been hands-on in that from day one as well, you know, learning all about mics, cameras, microphones, the whole lot basically. And if you don't know that, I always say to people when they want to jump into business, anything, learn your core key skills first. Because if you don't know that and you hand it off to someone else, A, if they leave you, you're pissed. And B, you don't even know what they're doing if you're getting your money's worth. You might be paying, let's just say, for the studio, $1,000 an hour or something like that, when really and truly you could be running your own studio for a fraction of the cost, but you won't know that unless you do it yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about just business across the board. There's so much like transferable skills and that work, once you work it in one business, if you're good at business, you're good at business across the board. As long as the product's good, you can make it work. By the way, just a side note, LTV Productions, don't get any ideas about $1,000 an hour, by the way. I don't know what Raheem's talking about, but that's not something we're going to be implementing. And you're not going anywhere either. You're staying right here because we're really happy with the production quality of the studio.
I know that there are studios out in Dubai that, I'm not going to say $1,000 an hour, or technically 1,000 dirhams an hour, so you could class it as $1,000. But I know
I paid, I think 1,000 dirhams, for like, and that was.
Is that the one where you filmed with William and?
And don't get me wrong, like they're good. I named them like Panoramic Studios and that low location.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. The set looks sick. Yeah.
But you can easily pay, but it's understanding the market. Like, you know, the Dubai podcast pricing and videographers in Dubai. In comparison to London, like it's ridiculous. Like
I think
double or
there's way
triple
more
the price.
demand out in Dubai for it than it is here. You know, here in London, there's a few select podcast studios here and there, but definitely in Dubai, it's all over the gaff.
They are expensive though. So, obviously, understanding that's important. Obviously, you now have quite a firm understanding of construction. I know we've touched on things in terms of obviously our parents are getting to the points of their lives where they're getting older, want to kind of wind down, and then you've stepped into now managing a lot of your dad's properties. How have you found that process?
Well, I'm not fully stepped in yet. Only reason is because trying to get an ethnic dad to retire is a myth. You know, I don't think he'll ever retire. So I've been saying to him, look, I want to take over. Mainly reason being is, as I said, I want him to retire. He's getting old now. I want him to enjoy his life more. The process of the property I wouldn't know about yet. The process of trying to get my dad to retire and give me all of that has been a ball ache in itself. But eventually we'll get there. I do know, you know, the nooks and crannies of actually managing what he does and everything like that. So I kind of know that it's just a matter of about taking it over, pretty much. So.
Yeah, because I think when people often come from positions where their family does have property, they came from, you know, periods where it was very different in terms of mortgages or how you bought property, and there was a much more of a kind of scattergun approach in terms of just buy, just because that's what we're told. If you can buy a property, buy it, but without an actual real strategy. And
I think this is the first podcast as well. I think I've mentioned where my dad's been involved in property, so that's a little bit of an exclusive right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it has to be on the property podcast. You can't mention it anywhere else.
No, it makes sense, and I keep bashing that. Right. It makes sense to mention it, obviously, A, because of property podcast, B, because we're quite close boys anyway. But C, the reason why I hadn't mentioned it before is because I think people automatically would have an assumption that, you know, just because someone in your family is involved in property, that you've just grown up with a silver spoon fed in your mouth and the whole podcast has been funding for and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of avoided it, but just embrace it and just say it how it is. And just say it. I wanted to just say it as a way of, look, I need to take over now just to help my dad out, sort of thing.
No, I think, look, and I think people almost like, I get that everybody likes like a kind of heroine story of you coming up, but just because, you know, somebody may have access to property or funds in your family, it doesn't mean that you have that same access. And I've seen it, like I said, from the jump, whether it be the first, you know, I called it your studio, you called it your shed, but you had to do, you know, the work and make it work for yourself very early on.
If I had access to funds like that from family money or anything like that, life would be a completely different thing. But my dad's always made us work for our money. Or, you know, for example, when I used to do, you know, labouring with him from young age, he might give me a whole room like this, maybe £30. I don't even know what the going rate is, but it's just always made me.
If I can get you in for £30, we can stop this podcast right now, because I've got a couple. You know what I mean? Got a couple flats out in Fulham that we're right at the stage where we need some laminate.
No, but point being, my dad's always made us work for our money. You know, whether it be from him, whether it be from actual work and all that sort of stuff. So having that installed value in us has always been key from day one.
Yeah, I think I remember a conversation with my cousin once, and I think he probably summarized it in the best way, and he said, like, look, like, to not acknowledge like what your parents done, like particularly for a lot of them, they're first generation migrants, is like a disrespect to them, because they've come here and have achieved like amazing things, but it's like a relay race. They've done the first leg of you know, of the relay, but they've now passed you the baton to say, okay, Raheem, this is what I was able to do, but I'm going to chill now. I've run my race. It's your job to not only keep us going, but take us to that next stage.
Yeah, 100%, bro. I think that's the thing that a lot of people got to do. And is, you know, there's that saying that we have, I don't know if you heard it, where one generation wins it, one generation loses it, and all that sort of stuff. So there's kind of that social pressure to make sure that you're not the generation that loses it and you're only going to excel it. And then the plan is, you know, one day when we have kids, inshallah, they get installed the values to make sure they grow it even more, rather than having that one grandson later on who just blows all the money.
No, definitely. It's one thing why people like property a lot, because it effectively is a lot of people's I can't go broke fund. It's very difficult to just, you can't, it's not a super liquid asset. Where I mean, don't get me wrong, some people are amazing at messing things up. But it's that little bit harder. I think another thing I wanted to touch on as well is also just...
This looks like a sponsor. Let me just turn that. Paid
Exactly. If they haven't paid, you got to get out of here. Big up the sponsors, Faraway Pizza, by the way, each and every time.
Oh, yeah, Faraway Pizza,
Yeah, Faraway Pizza.
You
know what I mean? So you got a discount code PBK20 if you want to get yourself a pizza. Faraway.co.uk.
I ain't going to plug my discount code right now, but no, shout out Faraway Pizza.
Yeah, big up Faraway. Yeah.
Use the code that Kazy just said. There you go. All the sponsor segment done right there.
But yeah, I was going to say, just in terms of, for me, and this is kind of like just a takeaway piece of advice from something you've just mentioned, and it's that a lot of people, like, you know, they want to shy away from maybe doing stuff with family, or being like, oh, well, I don't want to live in the shadow of mom or dad or brother or sister. But we just had in like the last episode, Mike from Flake Bake, and he set up his business off the back of his dad having a bakery. And it's very easy to someone say, oh, but your dad had a business already. But like, he took a bakery that was doing a couple of, like, you know, 100 of patties a week, to now be in a place where they're doing 20, 50, 60, 100,000. So it's not just about like saying, okay, was there something there? Was there a foundation? It's what you can build off the back of it. And also a lot of the time, the assistance that you can add to the infrastructure that's already in place.
Yeah, with the technology and everything, that resources that we've got today that they didn't have before. You know, because sometimes older generation are in a position where they don't necessarily want to try new things. They're comfortable where they are. Whereas the new generation, we come in, we're like, we got social media marketing, we got internet, we can do this, we can do that. And then I reckon, you know, if you can bring that modern generation twist onto a traditional family business that's been running for X amount of years, that's when you can really add value and excel to it. And that's when you can grow. And then no one can really say that, you know, but your dad had this or your mum done that or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, that's really true. Like, I hear some crazy stories. Like, I had a friend the other day whose dad's got 2 properties that have been vacant for 20 years because he had a bad experience with tenants and said he doesn't want to deal with them anymore.
Yeah, bro.
So now he just uses 2 houses to store stuff in.
Bro, this is another reason why I want to get into running my dad's properties, because my dad is always a hands-on labor guy himself, Like, he'll get the plastering done, he'll do... Like, obviously, I learned it from him. He's still doing it,
Yeah.
There has been a yard that has been empty since 2021, 2022, that needs full renovation and all that sort of stuff. Now, he don't want to go out of his way to get a team, and his thing is, he always says to me and my family, you know, there's no builders in the world. And I look at people like yourself and I'm like, Kazy's got a whole team.
We got
Why
some
can't we just
builders.
get builders in?
I can make some calls.
That property has been empty for 3 years now. Let's just say a month or yearly rent, you're looking at, I don't know, low end 20K. That's 60K gone right there. I would have paid a builder 60K if needed to be in the beginning to get it done in a month or two. I have it running.
And that's what it is. I say a lot of the time, people don't look at what's in front of them in terms of opportunity. And it's not to say that you're looking at like your dad as a business opportunity, but it's like even sometimes I'd say the best opportunities for people that want to get started in business are right in front of them. So someone that's maybe saved up some money from work and has £40,000 and then they've got a parent that doesn't want to refurbish their property. So they're currently getting £800 in rent a month when they could be getting 2,800.
Well, because of the new look property and
just
stuff like
because
that.
they've just got old tenants in there.
Yeah.
They turn around and say, look, listen, mum, I'll spend the £40,000.
Yeah.
Let me just make my money back over the next, like, whatever period of time is, over the next, like, 18 months. Then after that, like, whatever you get above the 800 you were getting before, we split, and it's like a win-win.
Literally like an investment sort of thing.
Exactly. It's helping mum and dad out, and it's a win-win. So I think people sometimes don't actually look at the opportunities that are right in front of them and are shouting from the rooftops and going to networking events when actually the money's a lot closer than they think and the opportunities are.
This is the reason why I wanted to mention in this podcast, right? Because for anyone who is in that position where, you know, they think, I don't want to be known for, you know, parents' money or anything like that, 100% hear it. But I think now change your mindset of how you can add to that and what you can do to make sure that you excel and grow that portfolio of properties, business, retail shops, whatever the case may be. I think that's the mindset to have of how can I add to this? What can I do to make sure this excels even more, rather than thinking, rather than thinking of it being inheritance and all that sort of stuff, you know.
Talking of excelling, obviously you've been building out your YouTube and obviously your personal branding for a while. You're at how many now? 300? Is it 300,000?
No, I wish, bro. I wish 257.
250. Okay, so over 250,000 subscribers though, which is listen. You lot have seen me here, by the way, for the last, like, we're hundreds and hundreds of videos in. And like, it's a grind. So like, for you again, hats off to you for grafting
it is a grind, bro.
Alhamdulillah. Getting it that far. For people that are interested in the space, as mentioned, everybody wants to do a podcast now. What hints and tips have you got for people that want to actually grow their own YouTube channels?
YouTube channel or podcast?
I guess combination.
I'd say find a channel and build a channel, whether it be podcast or just general YouTube channel, something that you're interested in. Like, for example, there's no point in me doing a podcast on property because I haven't got the same passion in property that you do. So eventually down the line, I'm going to get fed up of it and I'll probably get burnt out, probably quit and all that sort of stuff, right? So find something that you're passionate in. There's always going to be people in the world who are passionate about the same thing as you, whether it be planes, technology, so on and so forth. And then the main other big thing is consistency as well. Doing your research, see what videos are banging, what are popping, and take it from there, bro. Be consistent with it, make your videos and smash it up.
Okay. I know that you like business. I know that you like talking to people. I know you like talking to me. I know you like talking to Dean and the Tate brothers and all the people that you've had on. But you don't do this just to talk to people. There's obviously the business element behind it. Can you give us like an insight for those that aren't as familiar, like what the actual podcasting and YouTube like business is?
The number one biggest benefit for me is networking. So most obviously, yeah, we'll come into the payment side and all that sort of stuff on the podcast. I think that's your question. Yeah, we'll come into that later on. But I think the main thing is networking. You know, I know people like you now. If I ever have a question about property, straight call you. Anything to do with, let's just say, acquiring a company, I can call, let's just say, Dean, for example. I think the biggest thing for me personally is the network that comes with it, because I'm literally just building a hotel full of doors, open every single one to a different industry. So I've got the contact there for that. If I want to go into health and fitness industry, someone there, so on and so forth. It's just a whole load of business JV ventures that are potential there on the line, on the table. As for actual payment, yeah, it's a business. You know, we have our payments, overheads that we've got to make. We've got a profit that we've got to make. If you want to get into the nuts and crannies of it, we can do that.
I mean, so give me like, where are your three main income streams from the podcast at the moment?
Sponsors, AdSense, and now actually we're launching a community as well. So similar to PBK community, we're launching a community. So that will be one of the big home hitters as well.
Okay.
And obviously physical events, but that's, I suppose, not a monthly recurring thing. Yeah.
Where would you say, I guess generally, and for you, what sits higher in terms of your returns? Is it AdSense or is it sponsors? Where can people hope to make more money from?
Sponsors, 100%.
Okay.
Sponsors. If I had known that in the beginning, boy, oh boy, life would have been different. I thought it was all about AdSense. And then sponsors come along, and then I started figuring out the model of how to charge sponsors and what to do, how to package bundles, get them on board. It's basically full on sales, right? And I think once you clock that model, then you think, forget about AdSense. AdSense is pretty much just petrol money now and hotel money if you need to be. Sponsors is where it's at. But I'd say nowadays, I think now if people build a community, that's where the real big money is. And but as long as you can provide value.
Yeah.
Which is first and foremost.
Yeah, because AdSense, I guess, look.
AdSense is cute.
Nah, but like, do you know what it is? You know, sometimes like when, of course, I don't know. Can you say, like, how much do you make from your AdSense a month?
Oh, god damn, you want to ask me them questions there?
No, just like a little question. I'll tell you mine. Mine's rubbish.
On average, I want to say 1.82k.
Okay.
So that's just like normal salary wage. When you think about it. To be fair, that's probably lower than minimum wage.
Yeah, mine's definitely like my hours put in versus my return.
Oh no, 100%.
I think my AdSense is like
AdSense for the amount
400-500.
Bro, for a YouTube channel, the amount of hours you got to put in for the AdSense return is not worth it at all.
For our space.
No, but I'd say for anyone. Because you got to look at big YouTube channels as well. For the amount of effort they're putting in. Okay, let's just take normal YouTube channel, for example, yeah? A tech YouTube channel. For their videos, they got to write scripts. They got to do all the cinematography. They've got to spend hours and hours in a video. It might even take a week to produce. With AdSense, let's just say they get 100,000 views. For that video, they're probably only looking at about less than $1,000. Yeah? So that's less than $1,000 is more top end as well. That's not really worth it, you know, when you think about it. So yeah, I suppose, you know, hours put in versus AdSense, it's not.
I guess it's all about building, and which is funny, like, because when we look at like social media platforms and personal branding, that's what it comes down to. When people ask me like, oh, is it worth being on Instagram? Is it worth me sometimes having to feel a bit strange talking to my phone like this?
Yeah. Probably
not. Is it me like making content all the time? Is it the most enjoyable thing? Probably not. But it's not the direct returns of, like if you want to monetize something you're doing that's going to make you the money. It's like you said, it's the networking and the conversations.
Yeah.
And you creating a shop window where people say, no, Raheem knows his stuff. I like him. I want to do business with him.
A question off the back of that. Why is it when you're doing stories that sometimes you don't enjoy it or anything?
Do you know what? When I'm doing stories because I just want to do a story, then I enjoy it. It's when I'm doing stories because my social media team is telling me, you've not posted 2 to 3 times this week, you agreed, and it feels more forced. And I think it goes back to what you said. If you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. Like, you feel like you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
But the second you feel like you have to do it, it takes an element of the enjoyment.
I get what you're saying, because in that case, you've got a team behind you telling you when to post and all that sort of stuff. But then why don't you make it in a way where you're filming? For example, sometimes, I'll literally, if I'm thinking about a topic off the top of my head, I'll either write it down my notes or make a quick video on it. And then you can hand that to your team to say, post this whenever you need to post it.
Do you know I'm a perfectionist. So it's like, if I try and make a quick video and I'd be like, no, this isn't
but the thing is, people, you can have perfectionists, but I think it's way more natural to not be a perfectionist.
I'm 100% know that. How did he turn this on interviewing me, by the way? He's
full
too
script,
good. He's
let's
too
go.
good at his job. He's too good at his job. But I like it. To be fair, I haven't done many podcasts this year, so I'm
you
all
not?
right. We can do a
Like, you've been smashing the podcast recently, though.
no other people's pods. So I haven't done like. So obviously, I've spoken to a lot of people.
When's the last podcast you done? It wasn't my one, was it? That was in October last year.
Yeah, no, I did. I've done a few. I can't remember them off the top of my head that I've done, but I haven't done any sort of like more sort of like blue chip sizable podcast. But I want to do some again.
That's a blue chip podcast.
Yeah, no, you're blue chip, man. You know what I mean?
I like that phrase.
Top tier blue chip, man. Let them know you're one of the. You know what I mean? You know, like when we talk about the accounting space, we talk about our like Ernest Youngs and KPMG. That's what you are of the podcast.
No. I'll take it, but I appreciate it. But yeah.
No, honestly, I think I always like my thing is you have to give people their credit and that your branding is very well known. Like, and I give you your credit that like you've made me money off coming off your podcast. People will come and say, "Oh, I saw you." Yeah. What I do is you see that day rate of the floors, doubled it, double your salary,
£60. No way.
Yeah. But like people see that. And because you hold like your podcast to a certain level, we have a certain level of guests on, people are, well, like if Raheem had you on, you must know your stuff and, you know, built relationships and done business off the back of it. So you haven't done as many, but definitely we're going to be doing a few more. We've touched on, obviously, like some of the monetary side and the remuneration from the podcasts and where people can make the money and also some of the intrinsic value of building the relationships. But you just mentioned, obviously, you're now looking to build out something similar to the PBK community within your space. Can you touch on what you're going to be doing and why you're doing it?
Yeah, bro. Do you know what? Off the back of the impact that the CEOCAST has, whether it's, when I get messages on Instagram, whether it's YouTube comments or when I see people in person as well, it's always asking me questions of how can I get through to this person? How can I do that? How can I do this? So, okay, I thought there's a problem here. People networking or trying to get into the room with other people. So I thought, okay, cool. How can I provide as much value as possible, but also using this opportunity to monetize it? So I thought, okay, cool. Let's set up what's called the CEO Hub, where it's basically we host weekly calls. Our primary focus is hosting weekly calls with top leading industry experts. Could be someone like yourself. So me and you are on a webinar with 100 other people from the CEO Hub joined in, asking everything they want to ask in a normal scenario where they might not be able to access you. They could through PBK community, but they could also do it through CEO Hub as well. So it's always trying to bring my network, the people I know, to an everyday person, basically. So they can have the knowledge and expertise, ask whatever they want, and kind of build a connection with them, with me, and do that via the CEO Hub. And I just thought, let's build it like that. Eventually, later on down the line, we're going to have member exclusive events, get people flown out to Dubai, to US, wherever it may be, people coming down. So I'm actually getting a bigger studio as well now. So obviously you've been to my studio before. Yeah. So I'm getting one 3 times the size now. So I can build a podcast set there, but then also have almost like auditorium style theatre sort of thing. And basically allow people to come to the podcast in person, watch it live. And just provide as much value to people, bro. I just want to help people become, I suppose, better CEOs, better entrepreneurs, and just share the game with people, I think we live in a society where, especially in the UK, where people try and gatekeep a lot of the secrets and things they've learned over the years. Whereas a lot of the people I know in my network are willing to share that all over. They just don't know necessarily where to share it. If I could bring the people to share it too, it's a win-win for everyone. Because they get the value of, right, I've helped that person. The person who wants to help is getting the value thinking, yeah, I just got the help from this top entrepreneur, and I just want to as I said, just bring as much value to many people as possible.
That's good, man. I'm excited. You got the event out in Dubai.
Yeah, Mastermind. That's a first of, well, I'll say many, but it's been a very, very stressful period, so I don't even know about that. Yeah. You're coming as well, which is sick.
I'm coming to speak. Excited about that.
Do you know when it came to me selecting guests and everything, I was like, okay, cool. Who's actually provided value in my life? Who's been a very good friend of mine, and who can I actually trust to provide value to other people? You were one of the first people I thought of.
I appreciate you.
And I think, it goes hand in hand. Everyone who has a business of some sort, I think it's safe to say a lot of people know, unless you're Simon Squibb, knows that property is a safe place to invest and a very good place to invest.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny about you mentioning Simon Squibb? I know, like, obviously, I wasn't that aware of him, but I was always saying that, for me, like, I love conversation and conversation can be slightly combative as long as it's respectful. And I think I've been looking for ages for somebody who's very anti-property to just have a conversation with.
But don't you remember when I said to you, let's try and line up a debate?
Yeah.
Me, you, and Simon Squibb. It was almost, I had in my head, I wanted to create a whole debate series.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it like a gloves are off sort of thing. You know, you two are at the table,
Yeah.
I'm in the middle, asking questions. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? It would have been so sick. And my first one should have been and would have been, you know, you versus someone who's anti-property. If there's anyone else who's anti-property right now, shout me, please. Because, you know, we wanted to do it with Simon Squibb. Simon, I suppose, just didn't have time for it or anything like that. Understandably, he's a busy guy. But I still want to see that.
Yeah.
Because
No,
he's the only person I know who says property is not a great investment.
Yeah, likewise, like you said, if you've got any people that you can recommend that Raheem or myself can reach out to, I think it'll be a very interesting conversation. I think some of the best results and conversations come off the back of two very sort of adverse viewpoints when you actually are forced to look yourself in the mirror and justify your own, you know, your own angle.
Yeah. So saying that, I'm not going to say I'm anti-property, but I was actually thinking about this last night, right? Where it's almost like we can have a kind of debate here, because I'm of the opinion of you can make way more money online via the route of property. So if we had to break this down, how much would you spend? Average house in London where you'd buy is what, about 500k auction price, something like that?
Yeah, anywhere from sort of, I say 3 to 700. So yeah, so
Okay.
5 is probably about in the middle.
Auction, do you is it mortgage or you got to buy them outright?
So you buy them with something called a bridging loan.
Yeah.
So effectively, it's similar to a mortgage, but like a short-term source of funding. So you generally put in anywhere from a 20 to sort of 35% deposit.
So let's just call it roughly
you put it in-
500k property, 100 grand.
Yeah, you put it in like 150 probably, something like that.
100, 150 grand cash that you got to put down, yeah. Now, even for you in this sake here, you know, you're running PBK community, you've built value there. I know you've got a whole lot of people in the PBK community. If you was to open up to more doors, rather than buying property for putting 150k in there, what do you think it would look like if you put like, say 150k into content and ads?
Thank you to those of you who have liked, shared, commented, but most importantly, subscribed to the channel. Did you know only 28% of people that regularly watch my videos have subscribed? Now we're trying to get that to 40% so we can bring on bigger and better guests and make better content for you. So if you could do that right now, myself and my team would really appreciate it. Now back to the video. Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation because it's the reality is, and I say this regularly, and hopefully we understand, property isn't a get rich quick business.
Yeah.
It's a get rich slow, and it's a great way of parking your money.
That's the way I look at it. I literally look at it as a way of parking off money for investment, not for making money.
And you can use it to make money, but you then have to be
Of course,
quite
yeah, I've
proactive.
seen people like yourself.
But it's an investment strategy, and you know, if you do really well at it, you maybe make sort of 35% returns per annum. If you invest in a business, some businesses can 2x, 5x, 10x, and way more, like some of the great people, Mario from Faraway Pizza, Mike from Flake Bacon, people we've seen, they've turned their businesses and they've 100x'd. So in terms of your potential return, you can make way more money in business than you can from investment. However, generally speaking, the risk curve in business is way steeper.
Of course.
So if I was to answer that question, I would say that the best choice is to probably do both simultaneously. So if you want to make money quickly, then invest in a good business idea that you believe in, but then take an element of the profits out that and reinvest them in, you know, a safer asset class.
No, I agree with you as well. Like, it's just like when I earn my money, you know, I'll split it between what goes back into CEOCAST, what goes into CEO Hub, what goes into any masterminds or future projects I'm working on, and what can I use to invest into assets to hold money or increase money in value. Now, that could be in the form of watches, property, a limited edition car or something like that.
That's a good debate as well, actually. The
What, the
watches versus houses. Because that, for a period, the watch guys were killing us, man.
Yeah,
The Jordans were killing me.
but that was during 2021.
Yeah, like
Cool.
2021, 2022, when like, you know,
You
a
could get
Batman
RM,
was
yeah.
like, I can't even remember what it was, something stupid.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. No, I'm buying a Batman tomorrow as well, funny enough.
oh, nice. How much
but-
is that?
That's 12k.
And I think at their peak, they were like 26 or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It's ridiculous.
So, but the Batman, I'm just part exchanging the watch with that one, so it's
Okay.
not like the end of the world with that, I suppose. But even when I was gonna say with that, you know, it's like you could put money into property. I can buy or put, let's just say hypothetically, deposit of 50 grand into a property. Or the way I look at it as well, for $50 a month, which is a great price for CEO Hub, put in, I'm not going to say 50 grand into ads, but even if I put 10 grand, and how many could come off the back of that?
Yeah.
You know, if I could build the MRR to even 20k a month versus property, how much would you say rental would you get in property for the year? But
Yeah,
20k,
you would
as I
need,
said,
you would need to be controlling a considerable amount of property to make,
you'd have to have a
20K.
big portfolio of
big
it.
portfolio to make 20K a month. But I think, and that's where the importance of, you can run a business, whether that business be online courses, whether that business be selling a product, whether it's business to business or business to consumer. But the difference is, if you don't have the know-how and the expertise, you can put 10, 20,000 pounds into ad spend and maybe make it back month one, and month two, people realize the product's no good and you lose the entire 50,000. Generally speaking, with property, it's like I said, there's that, obviously you can lose money, and it's not to say that any investment carries risk, but at a certain point you can mitigate your risk a lot more.
Of course, I agree with you. But if we're going to the basis of it being your first property, I'm sure likewise with a business, there's going to be a lot that you're going to learn on the first property, where to a point where, yes, you might still hold the asset, but there's probably going to be a whole lot of learning curves along the way for you to make more money on your next one.
Yeah, I think, look, so my experience from investing in businesses is I've had some businesses that I've invested from an angel investor that have been really profitable, and I run to this day, and they make me great returns, and they've made me far more from an ROI perspective.
Are you active on them, or they're passive?
No, passive.
Okay, sick. Yeah.
That I've made in property. At the same time, there's businesses that I've invested in that I've lost, close to six figures, because unfortunately things just went wrong with the business, not through any intents and purposes of those individuals involved, but because that's the nature of risk and reward in business. And I think that the online place, is that there's a lot of money to be made. But I would say to anybody that's just doing it, like, do the business first.
Yeah.
You spent 5 years, 5 years?
Since December 2019, 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years building up your credibility, building up your personal brand, building up your awareness, your skill set, to be able to then go and deliver great value. I think one of the concerning areas, particularly in the online course space, is because there's no accreditation, there's no bodies to say, actually, you're actually delivering good value.
No, there definitely needs to be an online body for that.
Yeah.
What was you going to say off the back of that?
Yeah, so I was saying it's like a lot of people want to do it because they see it as, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to make a load of money, but they don't have that same ethos of actually, let me do the business first. Because my thing's always been, I'm forever going to be a property developer first and whatever else second. So if I have a secondary business that's making me £1 million a year, I'd want to be making at least 2 million in the property space, just because I would want what I'm able to deliver. I would never want to be one of these people selling courses and the last property they bought was 20 years ago.
On that topic here, do you think there's too many? I feel like I've seen it more so now, where a lot more property gurus have been popping up.
There's a lot of property gurus. And look, it sounds like I sit on the fence sometimes, but I know some people that are great educators. Whether it be in the rent-to-rent space or buying property, they may have only bought one or two, or not maybe one, or 3 or 4 properties and sold them, and may have only done 5 or 6 rent-to-rents. But they're really good at explaining the process and delivering how to do that. And the proof is in the pudding in terms of the people they work with. But there are some people as well on that same side of that have done a couple of deals, now pitching themselves at the expert, are telling people they're an expert, and then when their students or mentees have an issue, they haven't come across half the problems that come up. So they're selling themselves as auction experts, but don't really understand how to read a legal pack, don't understand, what a flying freehold is and what the issue is, and where, what can be in the special conditions.
So many things to overcome in it, yeah.
So I think, yes, there are a lot more people, but unfortunately, whenever there's an industry that makes a lot of money, a lot of people enter it. And I think for those that are looking to part with their money, to join a community, to pay a mentor, to buy an online course, don't look at it like a get-rich-quick scheme. If somebody's got good advertising, I should go and buy the course.
Yeah.
Look at the value of the course. Like, go and try and speak to people that have done the course before. Go and look at all of the online reviews. Go and look at, like, you know, the company's house. All of the things that you can do to do your own due diligence into wherever you're gonna go buy things from. Because if you're gonna buy something on Amazon,
You're going to look at the reviews.
you're going to look at the reviews.
Yeah.
And if they say, oh, yeah, it came directly from China and was half broken, or it doesn't really work, it just...
Do you know what's funny? Yeah, you say that because more time when I'm buying something on Amazon, I'm pretty sure everyone will probably have this as well. Even if you have two of the exact same product, one could have 2,000 reviews, 5-star, or one can have, you know, a 3,000... Oh, sorry, 3 reviews at 5-star as well. You're automatically going to go for the 2,000 reviews just because more people have got that product. Even if it's a little bit more expensive, but the exact same thing, you're just going to get it just because of that's kind of like a safety barrier. My thing is this: I know 100% full well that property is a safe investment. It's a great investment, but my thing is also of in today's generation for people who are just trying to become an entrepreneur. Yes, property is there, but I also think, you know, try and start an online business or try and start content creation. Try and start
scalable business.
Scalable businesses, yeah. Like I wanna build a tech firm now or something like that, something within tech and build it, sell it, stuff like that. Property, you I don't know. Can you build a portfolio and sell it eventually down the line? I know you put in your story yesterday that you have a client who's looking to buy 50M portfolio, no?
Minimum 50 million. So looking to buy prime London real estate. Anywhere from 50 to 500 million. So yeah, people do sell portfolios, and you know, you tend to get certain economies of scale from buying a portfolio or buying an unbroken freehold. You know, so they do work, and it's why pension funds and asset management funds do buy them. Yeah, and a lot of people in the build to rent space, that's their goal. So they want to do blocks of anywhere from 50 to 100 in close proximity to each other. Get to a point where they've got 500 units, where they can then sell that to a pension fund with a decent multiplier and get a good exit. So it is a good strategy, but at the same time, a lot of, like anything though, it's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's understanding that just because it works for somebody doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. Yeah. And you've got to go into it thinking, what do I want to get out of this? Yeah. Versus what do I currently have and what am I willing to put into it, and making sure all of those numbers align.
You know, one thing I wanted to ask you, right, because I was having this conversation with my friend last night. It's obviously very clear that property prices in London are quite expensive, and to get on the property ladder in the first place requires a lot of capital injection. I know you go to Dubai a lot, and I think we've had this conversation before as well. But what's your opinion on buying property out in Dubai to let or buy to flip? I don't know the market like that, but I thought, you know what, let me ask you.
Yeah, no, definitely. So buy to let in Dubai.
So let me ask it like this, yeah, sorry. If you had no properties in London, but you still have all the knowledge you know now, where would you buy a property?
Personally, if I was to buy to flip, I would still buy in London, but that is because of my attitude towards risk. So you're gonna there's potential to make more money in Dubai, but there's also more market fluctuations. So it really depends on your own attitudes. Also, with London, it's very clear your predetermined prices. Yes, they go up and down a little bit at times, but generally speaking, you can follow quite a clear trajectory. In Dubai, like Dubai literally create new land. If you look at a map at Dubai over the last 20 years, the landscape has changed ridiculously. And what didn't exist 5 years ago now exists now. Like, we don't know whether or not they're going to be expanding out towards Abu Dhabi or because of the new gaming rights out towards Ras Al Khaimah. Ras Al Khaimah.
Yeah, no, they are. They've already built put the casino there.
But that's what I mean. So it's like, in terms of where the next hotspot's going to be, it's not as clear. So it's not gambling, but it's not as clear what's going to be the next.
But what about your areas that are already built and I say they can't build anymore there, but I'm talking about, for example, Business Bay, that's already congested as is, They can build a few more towers there, of course, but that area is still developed. That's always going to be Business Bay. You're always going to have the Burj Khalifa there.
Yeah, so like your kind of flagship areas like Business Bay, JBR, Marina, like areas that are very well-established communities. Price point wise, rents have gone up exponentially, so have prices recently. There's an argument about whether or not and how sustainable that is, and how impacts on like global sort of pressures are going to have on where money's going in and out of Dubai, and what that's going to look like for the longer term. I just think when you look at like the cyclical element of Dubai is fluctuated a lot more. A lot of people that look at it in detail would say, do you know what? I think the market's kind of stabilizing. People are actually building lives out here rather than coming in as expats, staying for a little while and leaving.
See, but that's the thing, building a life out there, for example, my vision one day in the future is to get married, have kids, and live in Dubai. For that reason, I'll buy a house where I live. In terms of investment compared to the UK, that I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like there's some great areas. Like in terms of yield, there's some great areas for yield, like your JVCs where a lot of, London expats live. In terms of the Airbnb, do you know what? JVC's weird. It's actually got really nice developments, but because they're all small scale and the infrastructure around each development, you sometimes still feel like you're in the sandpit. But I can see JVC coming a long way over time. Like maybe the hood is a good example. It might have felt like what Peckham felt like 15 years ago. There's nice houses, there's nice parts, but it just doesn't have that community feel. But I think JVC will come well.
I was actually going to buy a property in Creek Harbour,
Oh yeah, Creek Harbour's nice. But it doesn't feel real.
It doesn't feel real, and I think for the time being, the whole project is on hold. Because obviously they're meant to be building the Creek Tower there. That's not happening yet or anytime soon. So it's like, is it going to be another one of those projects where they just cancel it?
And that's the thing that I was saying, that the element of ambiguity that does kind of delay people in investing sometimes in Dubai, just because great opportunity. Like I saw a friend, they bought a property in Nikki Beach.
Yeah.
4-bedroom villa in Nikki Beach. I think they paid like 7 million dirhams, which is about like 1.34 million pounds. Sort of just pre-COVID. Prices went up to about 8.5 million. They thought, I've just made 1.5 million dirhams. I've made a lot of money. I'm going to sell it. They sold it 9 months later and made their 1.5. Their friend, another 9 months after that they sold it again for 12 million. So it just goes to show the amount of money that can be made. We're literally talking about price increases of close to £1 million UK pounds.
Yeah.
But no one predicted that. And that doesn't happen the same in the UK markets. There is that potential, but what if it goes the other way? There's been in periods where, never do you in the UK market really get to negotiate with your landlord and be like, oh, do you know what, by the way, rents have gone down, so I'm going to pay less next year. It doesn't happen. That has happened at points, in the Dubai market. But I think it's really interesting.
Wait, sorry, I was just saying, where you live in Dubai, you bought or renting?
So I have somewhere in Dubai, but I don't stay there. So generally when I go there, I'll just stay
hotels, whatever.
Yeah, hotels. More like the residencies of hotels, just kind of because I'm there for the longer term. But I think it's interesting. I think it's really interesting that regardless of whoever I speak to, whatever niche and business they're in, people still have a long-term goal to actually invest in property, and which is why I've made sure that we've pivoted outside of just talking about property, but talking outside in the business space as well. For people that want to connect with you, find out more about the CEO Hub, what you're up to, come and see some of your amazing guests, how can they connect with you?
Well, Instagram, we are on. My Instagram is at Raheem K, at CEOCAST if you want to watch the podcast content. Obviously, CEOCAST on YouTube. It's the CEO on YouTube. When's this podcast coming out, by the way? Do you know?
It might come out quite soon. It might come out before. Maybe. I don't know when it's coming out. We're gonna have to double check.
So by this point, I'm hoping that the CEO Hub would have launched.
Yeah.
We're actually launching this week or next week. So check that out. And obviously the mastermind's going to be sick as well. So I'm glad. We're about 3 weeks away from that now. So I'm
get some nice BTS, some exclusive. I'm going to get some for those that can't attend. Couldn't pay the premium to go to the first mastermind. I'm going to make sure that I get some of the BTS so you can be there in spirit. Before we let you go, who's the worst guest you've had on your podcast?
Oh, God. This is one of the things where you're going to slap it in the trailer 100% in it.
Nah.
Yeah. I know. There's one I've done with a guy named Khalid, my twin. You seen that one?
Yeah.
That's the worst episode.
Oh, that guy was dodgy. I've seen him before.
That guy was dodgy. Yeah, we'll leave it as that way. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus apart from myself.
Nah, I hear you. I do hear you. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you having me.
If anybody needs to get laminate flooring done for £30 a day, you know where to reach out to. I've been Kaz from Property by Kazy. This has been another episode of the PBK podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. If you've got any questions for us, let us know in the comment section, and we will be back next week week with another fantastic episode.
Hold on, here's one actually, just to add on
Go
a
ahead.
couple of questions there. Off the back of that as well.
Yeah.
If people have any questions for Kazy or myself, I'm gonna get you on the CEO Hub.
Okay, cool. No problem, brother.
But leave them in the comments as well.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, all of that. But CEO Hub, PBK community, we're locked in. We're going 2024, amazing things. Catch you all real soon.